Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in this crazy this crazy world we're living in. Coming through for wanted to drop through do a live to basically kind of follow up, sum up some things that we have discussed and talked about on my platform many times. Um and that is C-19. Okay. Um, I want to give a special shout out to Simone Gao. Simone Gao is a journalist, Chinese journalist. She left China. She currently reports on China. And it's not that she goes against her own people or anything like that. It's just that she has helped the world understand and navigate you know, China's behavior in this whole C-19 situation. Now, 2 years or so ago, on the State Department's website, and I actually reported on this on the day that this happened, but I had also been reporting on this um, even prior to that. That that um, that summer, the summer of 2020, we all suspected that COVID-19 came from a lab inside of Wuhan, China. Okay. Now, it wasn't really taken seriously at first, but there's only, from my understanding, three, four bio level 4 labs in the world. And that one in Wuhan is one of them. Wuhan was also very badly hit at one point. China was cremating up to 5,000 bodies on a daily basis at the height of the epidemic. So, how could this possibly happen? How could a leak? How could the coronavirus have leaked out of this lab in Wuhan, China? How could this have even happened? Well, we know they were testing on bats. They lied to us. They told us they weren't testing on live bats. That wasn't true. Video footage later came out proving that was incorrect. And what's crazy and funny to me is that they ended up firing the leader of that laboratory. But overall, China has been covering this up since its beginning. Listen, China, if you've ever worked in IT, then you know China does things different from an IT perspective than the rest of the world. All right. They completely isolate themselves off, they firewall themselves off from the world. There's absolutely no packets that go in or out of China's firewall unless unless it goes through their appliances. There's actually a nickname for it that I will refrain from saying, but there's a nickname for that firewall that China has. Now, China doesn't have Facebook. They have things like Weibo. They don't have Twitter. Those sorts of things. They have their own versions of these sorts of applications. But the scary thing is that the government has their hands all up in it. It is widely known, many doctors, people that were even reporting on the coronavirus in China were coming up missing. They were doing reports on social media. And here's the other bad thing. Although they do have their versions of social media, we can't get to it and they can't get to ours. Now, there is things that can be used called VPNs, virtual private networks. There is manners and methods to do that. But that can be a very dangerous game because, God forbid, your VPN blurps and your real IP gets exposed. And then the Chinese government is knocking on your door. But that's what they have to do in order to get outside traffic, out of that country. I want to show you this because I think this will help people understand how this could have possibly escaped from this lab.
CNN has learned that President Biden was briefed on a 90-day
Hold on.
by the intelligence community on the origins of COVID, and sources say it reflects low confidence in either of the origin theories, a lab leak or a natural emergence. An unclassified version of the report could be released by the end of the week, and CNN's David Culver was in Wuhan as the pandemic began, and he's been looking into these theories.
The evidence supporting a lab leak for now is all circumstantial, starting with the lab's location. The BSL-4 lab, or Biosafety Level 4, is about 25 miles from the Wuhan seafood market. That is where many of the first COVID-19 cases initially emerged.
I don't think anyone would disagree that the major first amplification occurred in Wuhan.
The Chinese have pushed back against the claim the virus was engineered. But if the first amplification was from a lab, that would suggest either a lab worker unknowingly got infected or that the virus was isolated and or manipulated in a lab and somehow got out, sparking concern over the type of research that might have been taking place here.
I'm not saying that they led to this outbreak or pandemic by any means, but it's simply the kind of work that I think we as a scientific society need to think much more clearly and more deliberately about before we undertake it.
CNN spoke with a source directly involved with the construction of the BSL-4. Using their insight, along with information published by the Chinese before the outbreak, here's what we know. Planning and construction of the BSL-4 started in 2003. In 2018, it officially became operational. It's located on the sprawling, fenced-in Wuhan Institute of Virology campus. The building containing the lab sits separate. 4 levels make up the structure. At the top, a sophisticated air purification system. At the bottom and underneath the lab, decontamination equipment that allows for safe sewage disposal. Level 2, this is where the research takes place. There are separate entrances and exits, along with dedicated dissection rooms, virus storage facilities, and multiple labs for distinct animal and cellular level research. French engineers helped in the planning and the construction. But one source tells us the Chinese were initially resistant in adding some basic safety features due to the high cost of some equipment, such as multiple chemical decontamination showers, but that they eventually relented adding them. Some have also questioned the lab staff's training. A 2018 diplomatic cable sent by U.S. officials who made a site visit stated that, quote, the new lab has a serious shortage of appropriately trained technicians and investigators needed to safely operate this high containment laboratory. The cable went on to say that the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, UTMB, has scientific collaborations with WIV, which may help alleviate this talent gap over time. Scott Weaver of UTMB tells me the collaborations with the Wuhan Institute of Virology were minor and did not involve coronavirus research. He has not visited Wuhan's BSL-4 lab, but stresses that the training required for such a lab is extensive.
Typically, the scientists are wearing spacesuits. These are suits that are they're very expensive, very well designed to be airtight, and they're pumped full of filtered air, such that even if an accident occurred in the lab and there was some kind of a spill and an aerosol would be created, that spacesuit would prevent that aerosol from entering the breathing space of the scientists to infect them.
But other red flags came from the Chinese themselves, including WIV's director, Yang Jiming, who in 2018 co-authored a paper pointing out safety issues across all biosafety labs in China, warning in part that there was a lack of enough operable technical standards. But ultimately, many international experts viewed the Wuhan Institute of Virology's BSL-4 as one of the most sophisticated in the world, and its researchers more than competent.
You had a first-class facility, high-class virologists, and well-trained staff. You put all of that together and you'd say, well, I can't exclude a lab accident. It doesn't seem likely.
It also does not rule out the possibility of a leak from another lab in Wuhan. We drove by it last year.
Okay, there you can see right here, this is Wuhan Center for Disease Control. This is one of the labs within Wuhan, and of course, not too far from the market either.
Located just a couple of blocks from the Wuhan seafood market, in fact, Inside, lower-level biosafety labs that likewise involved the study of bats and coronaviruses. Still, there is one thing lacking in the search for an origin. That is full transparency from and collaboration with the Chinese.
Unfortunately, it's been very disappointing to see that the Chinese government has not been very forthcoming with some of the critical information about the very early stages of the outbreak.
China has shut the door on future visits by the WHO. Chinese officials believe the origins investigation has become politically manipulated by the U.S., especially given Biden's order for an intel community review, one that focuses in part on the lab leak theory.
We do need to have the evidence, and the very people who are calling for it have precluded that from happening. And the longer it takes, the more difficult it's going to be to get a complete picture of what happened. Maybe never. It may be too late now.
Without any concrete proof, experts warn that prematurely concluding COVID-19 started from a lab leak might leave the world and scientific community divided over geopolitics and less prepared for future outbreaks.
So where does all of this factor in when it comes to Biden's intel community review, which essentially looks like it's going to be inconclusive, Brianna? Well, when you ask folks how this started and you look at how politicized it is here, it seems like we're never going to know that answer, at least if it continues at this rate. It is so sensitive here, Brianna. You've got a massive propaganda campaign that has launched that is relentless, pushing the lab leak theory, not the Wuhan lab, one in the US. There's no proof of that, but they're still going forward with it. And so if this continues, this back and forth, experts say it is unlikely that you're ever really going to have the true science in all of this be known.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the goal here is actually to get to the bottom of it. It's just to allege certain things. David.
Wow. Interesting, right? To say the least. So, I mean, even back in 2020, in the summer of 2020, China stopped even reporting the number of deaths at 75K. They've not reported any additional deaths. Now, here's another interesting thing. And it's one of the reasons why I brought up the whole thing about China, you know, the way that they isolate themselves, they firewall themselves off from the rest of the world, sort of a thing. Well, in China, in order to have a cell phone, a mobile device, you could ask any Chinese person this, it is tied to what is equivalent to a social security number. Just like each one of us Americans, we have a social security number. Same thing in China. They have a version of social security number. Now, this number is tied directly to their mobile devices, right? Now, one of the things about the Chinese telecom industry is it's been very stringent on reporting things in the past several years because they wanted to show that, hey, we're huge, we're big, we're doing it big. We've got 20 million cell phones in production, blase. Now in this month, we've got 50 million, and every month for years, they would report these numbers, right? To, sort of bolster their economy or bolster their standing in the world or whatnot. Well, they continue to report after COVID hit, but somebody missed something. And the report that came out showed that China had lost or had taken back or lost or whatever you want to say, had deducted over 25 million phones. 25 million phones had been disconnected and no longer in use. Think about that. Now, when you think about the fact that it's so obvious, in my personal opinion, and I'm not a scientist by any stretch, but I'm no dummy either. And I've been saying this since this happened, that this leaked out of that Wuhan lab. Again, shout out to Simone Gao for all of her coverage on the coronavirus, all of the risks that she has taken She has taken so many risks to get information to us, guys. I'm telling you, she knows reporters that have come up missing, dead, just trying to report on the coronavirus. And I will grab her channel and drop a link to her channel for you guys. She has interviewed heads of state. She is a phenomenal journalist. But she probably will have some pretty interesting, she'll have a very interesting take, I'm sure, on this whole Wuhan lab intelligence report. But, you know, it's just 25 million. That means that either 25 million people left China or 25 million people decided they didn't want their phones anymore, or 25 million people died. And that's why. And that's the thing. In China, you can get a phone. It's no biggie. Like I'm not mistaken. I believe they just give you a phone, but there's things that come with that. Again, you're tied with their version of a social security number, that sort of a thing. So the fact that 25 million numbers disappeared, and obviously when that was realized, China has now stopped reporting on those figures. So those figures are no longer being reported anymore by Chinese telecom. So very interesting. But there's, you know, two sources, pretty heavy sources as well in the United States intelligence area of the government that has said that they feel pretty strongly that this was some sort of an accidental escape of this virus via a lab in Wuhan. So, you know, speaking of Simone Gao, one moment, please. All right, this is Simone's page. I'm going to drop a link for you guys. I just want to see if she's had anything to say on this whole COVID situation or intelligence report. And see, this is the type of good ass content I'm talking about, right? Let me see here. So she hasn't dropped anything yet, but I know she will. I know she will. And her focus is in China. But this right here, this video, I'm going to drop a link to this. We're going to take a second to look at it. This is called The Cover-Up of a Century. All right. Simone Gau's.
On March 27th, LA County ordered
Candy
all
Cane.
beaches closed.
CDC is announcing
Hey,
the first
Gloria, baby.
instance
Hey,
of
Third Eye.
person-to-person spread of the new coronavirus in the United States.
We all know why this beach is empty today. On the other side of the Pacific Ocean is China. It used to be one of the most fascinating places in the world. In the past 40 years, America had a long dream about this faraway land.
The United States will do everything possible to bring China into the World Trade Organization.
That you will be a more open society and you'll be a more open economy.
Now we are waking up from that dream.
China doesn't want the real story to be told.
And this will change how the world looks at China for years to come.
And for sure, we have lessons to learn.
Is it a natural disaster or is someone responsible for it? When did the Chinese leadership know the virus could spread between people? Are they trying to hide anything?
希望大家帮帮我们。
And what did the communist leadership do when the virus was spreading to the world?
It impacts us all.
How did they let that happen?
My name is Simone Gao. I was born and raised in China. Now my home is here in America, where I'm a journalist. We have to get to the bottom of this because millions of families deserve to know the truth. We need to have a clear view of what really happened. This way, future generations can be free of this disease, both physically and spiritually.
I really, really feel like Simone Gao deserves an award for her coverage on the coronavirus. I
The
really, really
virus
do.
started from this
She
city,
deserves one.
Wuhan.
She has been amazing.
The rest of China was oblivious about the coming danger until this date. 9:50 p.m. Monday, January 20th, 2020. Millions of the Chinese people were shocked when they watched this on CCTV.
Exactly, Dr. Zhang. We have just come to the topic that involves human-to-human transmission. Several days ago, we could not confirm it. So after the meeting you just attended, what conclusion did you come to on human-to-human transmission?
In the past, we said there was danger. Now, the information shows it definitely transmits between people.
Dr. Zhong Nanshan is the head of the China Health Commission expert team investigating the outbreak, and CCTV is the largest state-owned TV station in China. This was the first time China officially acknowledged that the virus could spread among humans. The question is, when did the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, know about it?
Baby, listen.
On April 20th,
Listen, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. Go watch it. I'm telling you. It will lead you. She's got some other videos also too. You should go watch during the year of 2020. She was the main journalist getting all sorts of undercover smuggled out footage, video footage that was having to get smuggled out of China so that we could actually see what was going on. She told the whole world about how the Chinese government was literally locking people inside their apartment buildings, literally locking the entire buildings up, locking people inside of their units for months. Checkpoints, all that, right? And it is because of her determination, her reporting, and I just don't think she's gotten enough credit for her reporting on the coronavirus. And I think that she deserves much more credit. So I hope people will give her flowers while she's here. Anyway, guys, thanks to everyone who came through. I appreciate all of you. I will be on Bigo later tonight. I'm probably going to be talking more about this new intelligence report with the coronavirus. Also, too, I can stream over there, almost like with Discord, without having to worry about copyright bullshit. And it's not something that stays, right? And I'm having a lot of fun on Bigo. So definitely come and follow a chick on Bigo at LeakYou. Yeah, man, send me some beans or diamonds or whatever they are. I'm still learning how to use the app, y'all. I am. I've already spent $20 though, but yeah, I'm starting to learn how to use the app finally. But it's amazing because every single time literally that I've went live on Bigo, a lot of times I will restream, what I'm talking about here during my live, and it amazes me because it's like, damn, 600 people just watched that. That's a lot of viewers, and I'm just starting out. So, really, really cool. But yeah, come follow a chick on Bigo. Anyway, guys, I'm up out of here. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Allow me to pay a bill or two just really quickly. Thank you. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
Got to pop the pill. I'ma show my ass, I'ma make
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
You're really smart. Like really, really, really smart like I am.
All right, guys. I'm out of here. Have a good one, guys. Until next time.